Hey guys, in case you missed, I got a Kemper Stage MK2 in the mail. Yesterday, I already posted my unboxing video in which I explained why I got another Kemper. I'll explain very briefly in this video in case you didn't see that other video. But I used to have a Kemper. I sold it, couldn't really get along with it. Then I got another one, a Kemper Stage, couldn't really get along with it. Sold that one. Maybe I even got another one. I don't really remember, but at least two. I just couldn't gel with the way the profiles, were trying to emulate my high gain amplifiers, basically. In a lot of cases, I felt like the profiles weren't accurate enough. The low end always turned to mush, and it just didn't sound and feel the same, or at least not close enough. So I got rid of the Kempers and didn't really look back. Then, of course, Tonex came out, the Quad Cortex with the capture stuff, and that's like very easy to use, especially the Quad Cortex. Tonex is a little bit more complicated with the computer and your interface and all that stuff, but at least the captures that you can create with those, platforms are very accurate in general, right? Especially with Tonex, the overall accuracy there is quite impressive. Some other products came out with capturing text like the Hot Tone Ampero. In that case, I think that they just kind of took the technology of the Kemper and maybe changed it a little bit there, but it seems very similar. Same thing with the Moore stuff. But those captures are pretty good. And then, of course, Kemper announced the MK2, which I have in my hands here, I think last week or so. And, in terms of the hardware and stuff, it's basically identical. It's supposed to be more powerful, so more processing power and stuff. But the screen is still the same, and you guys know this. It's not ideal, right? A touchscreen or something like that would have been a huge upgrade. And for some reason, they decided not to do that. Okay. So I wasn't really excited until I read that they are going to improve the profiling algorithm, engine, or whatever. The profiling tech, basically. They're testing it right now, and they're planning on releasing an update this summer that will greatly improve the profiling accuracy of the Kemper or something. And they're using 100,000 frequency EQ points to create the most accurate models ever made or something. Some bold claim like that. So I'm like, all right, put your money where your mouth is and show us how accurate your new Kemper profiles can be, right? But first, what I wanted to do is make a profile with my MK2 in the old way, so with the current firmware, and just see how well it holds up. And I'm going to do that today, right now, actually, with my ENGL Fireball 25. It's an excellent amplifier, my whole rig with my ISO cab and stuff. We're going to do that right now and see what sort of results we can get. Check it out. All right, guys, so I'm sitting here with my Edwards LP-CTM plugged straight into the Kemper Stage MK2. Right now, I'm running a profile that I created an hour ago or so with my ENGL Fireball 25. And let's take a listen to how that sounds. All right, so what I'm going to do now is create a new profile of the same amp, the same setup, and just to show you guys the process and to show you guys how accurate or inaccurate the profile is, because this is obviously the old profiling engine or algorithm or what have you. So we're going to see how this sounds, okay? Now, in terms of the signal chain, I am using my ENGL Fireball 25 on the lead channel with bass at around 1 o'clock, middle at around 1:30 or 2 o'clock, treble at around 2:30, and gain at around 3 o'clock. And presence at around, let's say, 9:30, which are kind of my favorite settings for the Fireball. So nice, tight, forward, and aggressive, wonderful, wonderful tone. The ENGL is going into my Grossmann Fatbox 1x12 ISO cab, in which I've loaded up my Celestion Vintage 30, which I'm miking up with two SM57s, both on a different spot, just to create a nice blend. And also a Sennheiser MD421 Kompakt to add a little bit of body into the mix. Those mics are going into my mixer, where I'm blending them, sending them with an aux into, and this is a unique one, and you'll understand what I mean if you've seen my review for the Grossmann Fatbox ISO cab. But that signal is being sent into my Line 6 HX Stomp, where I am applying an IR which is basically something that I created. It's basically an EQ match of the sound of that cabinet, because I have an ISO cabinet with the lid off. It's just basically a small EQ enhancement to make that cabinet sound a little bit bigger and as if the lid isn't on. But I like using my ISO cab with the lid on because obviously it's an ISO cab, but this enhances the sound a little bit, okay? Just so you know. And then the signal from the HX Stomp is going back into the Kemper. And obviously I have my guitar plugged into the input, and the send is going to the amplifier. And then the signal from the mics through the HX Stomp is coming back into the return 1, all right? So we're gonna start the profiling process, and I'm gonna click these 2 buttons here in order to start the process. And now we're in the profiling assistant. We're gonna leave everything as is. This is the Kemper amp that I've loaded up right now, which is the profile that I made an hour ago or so. And then the reference amp, which is obviously the real amp. So we're gonna go in next. And over here, I have it set to a distorted profile. And I'm using a cabinet, so I'm not gonna use the no cabinet option. And then we're gonna start the profiling process. Here we go. Now, as mentioned previously, when I was making profiles with my old Kemper Stage, so the Mark I, I never was really satisfied with the profiles in terms of the accuracy. So let's see what we have now. The profiling process has been completed. And over here you have some controls to fine-tune the tone a little bit. You can A/B the Kemper amp and the reference amp and also refine the profile. Before we start the refining process, let's take a listen to what we have now. What I'm noticing when I'm doing this profiling process is that there's a little bit more latency going on with the Kemper amp. It's a little bit distracting, but... and then the reference amp. One thing that I'm noticing right now is that there's a level difference. The reference amp is a little bit louder, and the Kemper amp is a little bit more sort of mushy. Let me demonstrate that again for you. I don't know if you guys can hear the mushiness because it's also like a feel thing, but I'll try to demonstrate it with some chugs. So the reference amp. It's definitely not the same, right? The Kemper amp has more gain, it seems, more compression. It's more mushy and saggy. And the reference amp is just more tight and forward, right? So we're gonna refine the profile right now. And from what I've understood, I just have to play some really loud strums and maybe some dissonant notes. So I'm gonna play some horrible stuff to refine this profile. It's not gonna sound good or anything like that, but apparently it enhances the transient response or whatever. So we're gonna do that right now and see what happens. All right, I finished the refining process, and let's see if that improved the accuracy, starting with some low chugs. So this is the Kemper amp. So the Kemper amp is just more boomy in the low end. It doesn't feel as tight. We can try adding some clarity. Let's see what that does. still pretty boomy. So you know what? I'm gonna do this again, because if I refine even further, it's gonna get worse in my experience. So we're gonna do another profile. And this time, I'm going to try to refine a little bit differently, and I'll explain in a second. So the Kemper amp still is a bit mushy, if you know what I mean. It feels a little bit better than after that refining process. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to avoid low resonant notes and stuff. I'm just going to play a couple power chords, but I'm going to avoid low chugs and lower notes and see if that helps to, you know, retain the tightness a little bit of the real amplifier. Let's try that. You know what? That's much better, actually. So I guess if you're doing high gain tones like me, thick, heavy high gain tones, perhaps in the refining process, just play some big open chords, but not too many low notes and no low end chugging and stuff, because it's going to over exaggerate those low end resonant peaks, if you will. So I think that we're good. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to store this, and I think storing presets on this thing is an absolute chore. Takes a lot of effort. You have to type in a lot of stuff. But since I'm basing this on a profile that I made earlier, I won't have to change a lot of things. So let's press store. And as you can see, I have a bunch of stuff filled in already. So this will do. Just want to change this to, let's see, number 2 instead of 1, since this is the second profile that I'm making today of this amplifier. We're done. Next. And the Fatbox and everything. I just don't really know how I can choose where to store this. Store new rig. Let's see what happens if we press store. So it's stored. I hope it didn't overwrite my previous rig. Let's see. Okay, great. So I have the one from this morning, and then the new one as well. So that's that. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think it's pretty good. I mean, the tone that I got there at the end was pretty nice. Felt good to play, sounded fine. Hey guys, John from the future here. So something interesting happened, okay? When I was editing this video and listening back to me playing through the reference amp and comparing it to the profile, it sounded much better than I thought, basically. So when I was doing the testing, I was a little bit critical of how the differences were. And of course, there are still differences. But in hindsight, I think that the profile sounded really good, actually. And playing through it is a lot of fun. Just now, I grabbed the guitar from my rack and played through the preset, and I just couldn't stop playing. So the tone turned out really good, and that's why I decided to offer this for you guys in my web store for a very, very cheap price. So if you want to try this yourself, you can go ahead and grab it in my web store. I'll put links below. Not as accurate as I was hoping, but you know, it's the same as I remembered, right? It's not accurate enough, in my opinion. Of course, you can go into the amp block, amp model profile block or whatever, and tweak some things like definition, which is a great control to control the tightness of the amplifier and stuff like that. So that is cool. I like how they implemented that with the Kemper. But I do still definitely think that the Kemper needs an overhaul when it comes to the profile creation process. There's a lot of room for improvement, especially with high gain amplifiers, which is just what I do on the channel. So you can say like, oh, it's better at low gain or mid gain amps. Sure, might be true. But, you know, my channel is primarily about high gain, so that's what we're going to do here, obviously, right? Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the profile? Accurate enough? Did it sound good? Did it sound bad? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, when the update comes out, I'm going to do another video like this to see how much better it sounds and how much better it feels under the fingers. That should be a lot of fun and very interesting indeed, but we're going to have to wait for that update, right? Maybe in the meantime, I can create like a profiling shootout with like Tonex, Quad Cortex, the Kemper Stage MK2, and some others, just to see, how they compare as of right now. Let me know if you'd like to see something like that. This video is not sponsored, by the way, but if you want to support this channel, you can buy something in my affiliate links like a Kemper MK2 at Thomann or Sweetwater. I'd really appreciate that. Or buy something at my web store, like a Quad Cortex capture pack or an IR pack and all that good stuff. Also, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, as that really helps the channel out. I'd really appreciate it. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.